WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Human rights groups in Senegal, including Amnesty International, demand justice for missing gendarmes.
One person has been charged, which marks a first step, but it remains insufficient.
Benin's recent constitutional reform extending both presidential and parliamentary terms ignites widespread debate.
The problems we are facing today have nothing to do with the constitutional reform. There is no urgency whatsoever.
The Gambia's Female Lawyers Association begins a nationwide campaign to strengthen women's access to justice, and Africa is set to lose 50 to 80 billion annually visa border restrictions. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
My name is Ankule Janko. Many thanks for joining our broadcast and welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana and Liberia. We begin the bulletin with some news from Senegal, where we are broadcasting from the mysterious disappearance of two gendarmes in November 2022 set shockwaves across Senegal, while the body of Fulbert Sambou was discovered at sea a few days later. The circumstances surrounding his death remain unclear. Several human rights organizations gathered yesterday for a march to say no forgetting and to demand that justice be served. Augustine Colley reports.
3 years after the disappearance of the two gendarmes, their families and several human rights organizations came together to renew their call for justice. A mass and a march were held Sunday in Dakar to pay tribute to Fulbert Sambou and Didier Badji. Here is Executive Director of Amnesty International Senegal, Sidi Gassama.
We reaffirm our unwavering commitment to stand with the families of Fulbert Sambou and Chief Warrant Officer Didier Badji in their quest for truth and justice. These were two brave servicemen who disappeared under mysterious circumstances, a first in Senegal's history. Yet, until very recently, the Senegalese judiciary has been unable to clearly explain what happened to them or determine their fate.
On the eve of the march, Jerome Banjake, a security officer with the Alliance for the Republic, the party of former President Macky Sall, was formally charged. According to Sidi Gassama, the judiciary must conduct a thorough and transparent investigation to identify any possible masterminds behind the case.
While recent developments have emerged and we uphold the presumption of innocence, we urge the justice system to continue its work. One person has been charged, which marks a first step, but it remains insufficient. Regardless of the individual's reputation, it is clear that they could have not acted alone. If they were accomplices or masterminds, justice must uncover and hold them accountable.
A new mobilization is planned for Tuesday, marking the anniversary of the disappearance of Didier Badji and Fulbert Sambou. Their families, relatives, and human rights organizations say they will maintain pressure on authorities until the truth is uncovered and justice is served.
Demba Ahmad An's report voiced by Augustine Ekoli. Let's turn our attention to Benin. The country's recent constitutional reform has ignited widespread debate, introducing two major institutional changes: the creation of a Senate and the extension of both presidential and parliamentary terms from 5 to 7 years. The reform has drawn mixed reactions from citizens, civil society, and political actors alike, with some questioning the timing, intent, and implications for Benin's democracy. Now the detailed reports.
Among the key amendments is a clause stating that any member of parliament who resigns from their political party will automatically lose their seat. Another controversial measure introduces a moratorium on political activities beginning immediately after the official announcement of presidential election results and lasting until 12 months before the next elections. These provisions have fueled sharp debate across the political landscape, but public opinion remains divided. While some citizens welcome the reform as a means to strengthen governance stability, others see it as democratic regression.
The problems we are facing today have nothing to do with the constitutional reform. There is no urgency whatsoever. Even if the constitution were to be revised, it should not be done by the current president. Why didn't he consider reducing his powers when he first took office? And now, as he prepares to hand over power to someone else, he suddenly wants to limit those powers. Clearly, something isn't right.
Within civil society, reactions are similarly mixed. Critics argue that the reform could concentrate power and weaken accountability, while others call for constructive dialogue to ensure that institutional changes genuinely serve democratic progress. Here is a civil society actor, Gilles Yabi.
Here in Waiti, we have often proposed the creation of councils of elders or similar bodies that could serve as advisory or mediating institutions. However, their roles and responsibilities must be clearly defined. It is crucial that we encourage an open dialogue if we truly want to establish meaningful and constructive institutional reforms.
On the political front, the opposition has condemned the reform as fraudulent and is demanding the annulment of the vote. The ruling majority, however, defends the amendment, insisting that its adoption is the result of extensive consultations and political consensus reached behind the scenes.
Cotonou correspondent Aziz Adam Sulei's report presented by Na Didi Tete. In Nigeria, a mine explosion in Goa local government area of Borno State has killed one person and injured several others. Local authorities say the device was planted by insurgents along a route used by farmers. Our correspondent Usman Omar reports.
A local hunter was killed and several people injured on Sunday when a buried explosive device detonated along a farming path in Goza. Security sources say the IED was likely planted by Boko Haram or ISWAP militants who remain active in the area. The victims were quickly evacuated to Goza General Hospital before those with serious injuries were transferred to the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital for further treatment. The blast adds to a rising number of similar incidents across Borno and communities within the Lake Chad Basin. In recent months, explosions in Damboa, Ngala, and border settlements near Cameroon have highlighted the continuous use of improvised explosive devices by insurgent groups targeting civilian movements. Analysts warn that these attacks are worsening insecurity for rural families whose livelihoods depend on farming and trading along the very routes now considered unsafe. The renewed IED threat is also complicating humanitarian access and heightening concerns about food insecurity in communities facing displacement and climate stress. For Nigeria and neighboring Niger, Chad and Cameroon, the Goza explosion is another reminder of the challenges posed by insurgent cells operating across porous borders. While armed forces maintain patrols, buried explosives continue to endanger civilians. Local leaders are calling for intensified clearance operations, stronger community reporting systems, and sustained security presence to prevent further casualties. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
To economic-related matters now, Africa is estimated to lose between $50 and $80 billion annually as a result of stringent visa and border restrictions. While this figure is often linked to illicit financial flows, it also reflects the broader economic cost of limited mobility, affecting trade, tourism, investment, and the free movement of labor across the continent. As Imo Edet reports, these restrictions significantly undermine intra-African trade by increasing the cost and time required for goods to move between countries, ultimately slowing progress toward a more integrated and competitive continental market. Here is his report.
Business groups report that companies seeking to operate across borders face long visa processing times, unpredictable entry requirements, and high permit fees. For small and medium-sized enterprises, these delays often translate into cancelled business meetings, missed trade fairs, and reduced market access. Lulu Hangala Wood is an entrepreneur.
And there's so many opportunities. All these things require us to move really quickly, but instead we're held back by long visa processes, unpredictable approvals, and permits that make planning almost impossible at times.
According to trade analyst William Kumwembe, the impact is most visible in sectors that rely heavily on mobility, including agriculture.
Because there is that element of protectionism, there has to be a modality, there has to be a way which would be, in quotes, accommodative.
Stakeholders said it just concluded the high-level Borderless Africa Forum organized by Africans Rising in Addis Ababa. The Ethiopian capital wants African governments to urgently harmonize visa policies, streamline border procedures, and ensure the full implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. After Dr. Robert Afriye is Ghana's ambassador to Ethiopia and the permanent representative to the African Union.
Some of the challenges, of course, are obvious. They are concerns. There could be arguments for it or against it, but concerns about security, about labor, about societal concerns. There may be challenges as part of the lot of humanity to also find solutions to problems.
As discussions on a borderless Africa continue, analysts say easing travel for business people remains one of the most urgent steps needed to unlock economic growth and ensure the continent benefits fully from regional integration efforts.
Imo Edet filed that report. In Niger, the African Development Bank, AFDB, has signed a financial agreement worth 98.7 billion CFA francs to improve access to drinking water and sanitation in the Zinda region located in the southeast of the country. The agreement was signed by the Prime Minister Ali Mohamed Lamin Zain and the AFDB country representative Mamadou Tangara. The funding is expected to bring much-needed relief to residents of Zinda, who have long faced persistent challenges in accessing clean water and adequate sanitation. Christopher Aticho has the rest of the story.
The project includes the connection of 30 boreholes, the construction of water storage infrastructure, including a 3,000 cubic metric reservoir and 12,000 social water connections. It will cover the city of Zenda and 14 surrounding villages. The project is financed by the African Development Bank for an amount of approximately 99 billion CFA funds, according to Mamadou Tangara, the AFDB's country representative in Niger.
The water and sanitation sector occupies a central place in the African Development Bank's assistance strategy for Niger. Specifically, the project falls on Pillar 2 of the country's strategy paper, which aims to promote resilient agricultural development for strong, inclusive, and sustainable growth. It emphasizes the mobilization and efficient use of water resources to enhance climate resilience.
The financing agreement was signed by Niger's Prime Minister Mahamani Lamin Zain. According to the head of government, this project will help ensure access to clean water for the people of Zenda and neighboring communities.
The overarching goal of this project is to sustainably improve the living conditions of the people of Zinda, a region marked by distinct geological characteristics and increasing demographic pressure, compounded by the effects of climate change. The project responds to a critical and long-standing need for the people of Zinda and surrounding communities who have endured chronic water shortages for many years.
According to the AFDB, this initiative is part of its support strategy for the water, sanitation and climate resilience sectors in Niger. With this new financing, the bank's total portfolio in the country now stands at nearly 700 billion CFA francs.
Now, correspondent Mutala Zuberi's report presented by Christopher Aticho. In the Gambia, the Female Lawyers Association has begun a nationwide community engagement campaign to strengthen women's access to justice and increase their participation in politics. The initiative opened in Brikama, West Coast region, where women from across the political spectrum gathered to discuss the barriers limiting their involvement in leadership. WDR's Banjul correspondent Sangdonal Mendy has the rest of the story.
More than 100 women turned up for the launch in Brikama, a forum designed to shine a light on the cultural and structural hurdles that continue to restrict women's participation in public life. President of the Female Lawyers Association of the Gambia, Ananjai, told participants that the engagements are meant to create safe and open discussions around the challenges that hold women back from fully taking part in decision-making roles.
It is our responsibility to promote women political participation. So it's a national development priority that strengthens our democracy and governance. We all know that women are leaders every day, from our mothers to the people in the offices, to the farmers. In the community, we play a big role.
She said that despite some progress over the years, many women still face obstacles shaped by social norms, political party structures, and limited access to legal assistance. Participant Mariama Kamara described women's involvement in decision-making as essential, adding that their representation remains worryingly low.
We are less represented. If you can know the population of the Gambia, we say we are like half of the population of the Gambia. But you go to the National Assembly, you see how underrepresented we are.
The association plans to extend the campaign across the country in the coming months, with officials saying the timing is crucial as the Gambia heads towards the 2026 election. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdona Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM around the world on wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Human rights groups in Senegal, including Amnesty International, demand justice for missing gendarmes. Benin's recent constitutional reform, extending both presidential and parliamentary terms, ignites widespread debate. The Gambia's Female Lawyers Association begins a nationwide campaign to strengthen women's access to justice. Africa is set to lose $50 to $80 billion annually from visa and border restrictions. Still ahead in the news, we have a press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The Mauritania Coast Guard announced over the weekend that it had rescued 227 irregular migrants off the coast of Nouadhibou. According to an official statement, the rescue operation was launched after the discovery on Wednesday of a boat that had departed from the Gambia in early November. Authorities say that emergency medical assistance was provided, helping to stabilize most of the rescued migrants. However, 15 individuals in critical condition were transferred to a hospital in Nouadhibou for further treatment. Sadly, one migrant died shortly after admission, according to medical reports. The Mauritanian authorities reaffirmed their commitment to intensifying control of operations aimed at curbing irregular migration, noting that the northern region of the country remains one of the main transit routes for migrants attempting to reach the Canary Islands. Now, the ECOWAS Court of Justice has concluded a week-long sensitization meeting in Monrovia. The different sets of events were aimed at increasing awareness of the court's mandate, practice, and jurisdiction among citizens and residents of ECOWAS member states. The program, which ran from November 10th to 16th, 2025, featured presentations, discussions, a legal clinic, and interactive sessions with various stakeholders. WDR's Monrovia correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
At the closure of the week-long events, Chief Justice Yami Kwekwebese reaffirmed the Liberian government's commitment to supporting the ECOWAS Court of Justice. He said Liberia will cooperate to ensure that the output of the socialization mission translates into lasting benefit for people in the region.
Liberia, through the Honorable Supreme Court of Liberia, we are prepared to listen, to adapt our practicals where necessary, and to work with ECOWAS to move the region forward.
ECOWAS Court of Justice President Justice Ricardo Gonçalves highlighted Liberia's ratification of all ECOWAS protocols as a testament to the country's dedication to justice, peace, and security in the region.
The ECOWAS Court intervenes only where a violation engages the responsibility of a member state at a regional level, thereby complementing, not competing with, the work of domestic judiciaries. It is therefore imperative that we build a constructive partnership and the member states.
Deputy Foreign Minister Abraham Yan called for practical strategies to enhance the implementation of the court's rulings.
This event underscores the importance of our collective efforts to ensure that the court remains a viable edifice of justice that will be accessible to all citizens of the community, particularly those who feel their rights are violated within the ECOWAS community.
The outreach program is part of the celebrations marking 50 years of ECOWAS and underscores the organization's commitment to justice, transparency, and accountability. For Newslink on WADR, April Parker, Monrovia.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
Let's join our Abuja correspondent Usman Omar for the newspaper review from Nigeria.
Hello and welcome to the press review segment from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Let's start with politics. Tribune newspaper leads with fallout from the People's Democratic Party's National Convention. In quote, senior figures have been expelled, and the story suggests a party in open internecine contest with legal and legislative battles now the likely next arena. Now, on the economy and business confidence, Vanguard newspaper runs several business and market headlines today. Investors are jittery over moves to review capital gains tax, and stock market showed a pullback. While corporate results continue to tell two stories at once, some banks report strong earnings, even as real economy indicators remain fragile. Now, power and labor unrest make the front pages too. Vanguard newspaper and other titles carry strongly worded reports that electricity workers and unions are threatening a nationwide shutdown after alleged attacks on power staff and growing regulatory confusion at Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. And now security. Daily Trust newspaper highlights a brutal incident in Zamfara, that is in the northwest region of Nigeria. A bandit attack that left civilians dead and scores abducted. And now on fuel policy, Tribune carries warnings from business groups that the federal government's suspension of a 15% import duty on petroleum products intended to ease prices risks longer-term damage to investor confidence and jobs if it becomes ad hoc. And that's the much we have for you on today's edition of Press Review as I hand you back to the studios.
Usman Omar with the newspaper review from Nigeria.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Only our guest interview this afternoon, let's turn our attention to Benin. The country's recent constitutional reform has ignited widespread debates, introducing two major institutional changes: the creation of a Senate and the extension of both presidential and parliamentary terms from 5 to 7 years. Well, the reform has drawn mixed reactions from citizens, civil society, and political actors alike, with some questioning the timing, intent, and implications for Benin's democracy. Well, for more on this development, we are joined by David Morgan Asagba Metonji, a Beninese consultant in geopolitics.
Well, this is a very, let's say, critical question, and most of the observers are still trying to figure out the in-depth reason that might have motivated the parliamentaries to move forward with this initiative. It appears very clearly that the process was very fast. We did not witness any debate at the parliamentary house, and nobody really have a clear idea of what the discussion have been, what have been the motivations in a very profound way of each initiator and each member of parliament that voted for this change of constitution.
What does Benin's constitution says with regards to amendments, particularly ahead of elections?
You know, the Benin constitution does not specify any period of amendment, especially ahead of the constitution. We know there is a general rule that has been adopted when it comes to West Africa bodies, especially the ECOWAS additional protocol that indicates that it is not recommended for any of the states belonging to this institutional body to amend the constitution within a period of 6 months ahead of elections. But what is happening right here does not, when you look at it in depth, affect the electoral process immediately or directly. When it comes to elections, we have a law that has already clarified the way things should go. So when it comes to election, there is no issue. But the amendment that occurred, and that is being on the floor, it has to do mostly with the way the country will definitely work from 2026, because there are still some steps that have to be met for everything to be enforceable at the very moment where those elements are done.
Sir, does the timing of this constitutional reform pose any threat or risk ahead of the election? If yes, then what are those risks?
There is no clear threat to the elections because the law has not actually affected directly the process when it comes to election. But when it comes to public trust, we might have issue, and that issue is not directly linked to the change of the constitution, but it is linked to the idea of figuring out whether the people are really into this dynamic of change that is occurring. If the member of parliament have definitely expressed the will of the people.
How might the creation of a Senate affect Benin's current balance of power and legislative process?
This is one of the interesting aspects of the change ongoing. And this Senate is obviously one of a kind because it has nothing to do with members that have been elected directly by the people. It is an institution that comes to play a role of stability if we have to listen to what has been explained as argument backing up this decision. This is a very different type of Senate.
Well, David Morgan Asogba Metunji is a Beninese consultant in geopolitics. Well, in the world of sport, it's been buzzing. Sport has been really buzzing, particularly football, because, oh boy, DR Congo, after defeating Cameroon, has surprised everyone else against by crushing Nigeria's dreams of World Cup because they've beaten the Super Eagles in the penalty shootout. It was a surprise result for so many people because they had expected Nigeria to overcome DRC. But that wasn't the case. Abdullah Hassan is here to tell us more.
Very well, Sankle. Just to add, across social media platforms, it has been buzzing with reactions, and many would say that Nigeria is unstoppable, on its journey to 2026 FIFA World Cup. But like you said, surprising, the turnout of the event yesterday. Now, Nigeria's bid for the 2026 FIFA World Cup ended on Sunday after a penalty shootout defeat to DR Congo in the African Playoffs final in Rabat, Morocco. The match finished 1-1 after extra time, with Frank Onyeka scoring early for the Super Eagles before DRC rallied and forced penalties. The Leopards edged the shootout 4-3 to advance to next year's international playoffs. Elsewhere, CAF has unveiled the 2025 CAF Award shortlist ahead of the November 19 ceremony, confirming Mohamed Salah, Victor Osimhen, and Ashraf Hakimi as the final three contenders for Men's Player of the Year. CAF also released the shortlist of Women's Player of the Year, namely Moroccan duo of Ghislaine Shebak and Sana Musodi and Rashidat Ajibade of Nigeria, marking the final cut. Meanwhile, CAF has revealed Beninese music icon Angelique and Wolaz as the host of the prestigious awards. Uganda and Burkina Faso produced two of the biggest shocks yet at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup Qatar 2025 on Saturday, stunning Senegal and defending champions Germany to book their places in the round of 16. Thankfully, there you go.
Brilliant, Abdullah Hassan, and I'm really looking forward to watching the CAF Awards ceremony on Wednesday in Rabat.
Indeed.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West African Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Falilu So and Ismaila Kamara for the technical assistance. Do interact with us via social media platforms X and Instagram and Facebook at WDR English. Well, coming up next is WDR's health program, World Body with Imo Edit. I am Sankule Janko. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM, Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views, and your opinions.